Over the past few months, the United States economy has been plagued with several economic uncertainties and a general feeling of impending gloom and doom. Several macro analysts, including Real Vision founder and chief executive Raoul, have described the Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hike campaign as a brash tool too heavy for a deficit-driven economy. These critics have pointed out that the Fed's Volcker-style sledgehammer will send the economy into a deep recession, and that would only be the beginning of at least a decade-long series of economic challenges and uncertainties for the United States. In a recent series of posts on social media platform X, a former Goldman Sachs executive, assesses some of the country's ongoing economic, political, and social challenges and how it affects the average investor. According to the American dream is dead and buried, and investors who do not take quick, immediate actions will be caught in the final devastating blow. To prepare, says you need to be sufficiently invested in two asset classes, cryptocurrencies and technology. He adds that these are the only assets that have ever outperformed the rapid devaluation of the dollar and will continue to outperform as we head into the economic and geopolitical uncertainties of the 2020s. Titled his post, Postcards from the Death of the American Dream, adding a caveat that the viewing is not going to be very comfortable. Powell's first post reads, "Since 1965, wages have not risen in real terms. It's an endless hamster wheel of despair." A hamster wheel is an activity that involves someone being busy all the time, but never achieving anything important or reaching the end of a task. That has been the reality of the average American since hourly compensation significantly decoupled from productivity in 1973. Powell accompanies his post with this chart of U.S. real wages, the wage after accounting for inflation, since 1965. The chart shows some up and down movements over the decades, but it is easy to see that today's real average wage has about the same purchasing power as it did about 40 years ago. Americans are getting more productive and earning more, but the dollar is getting more devalued at a faster pace than they are earning. Again, an endless hamster wheel of despair. Powell further notes that the problem is worsened by the increase in asset prices over time. He points out that equities have risen in real terms by 2.5% per year and now compounded in a loss of purchasing power by workers of 83%. Assets are no more than future deferred consumption, long-term savings, generally to pay for retirement. The problem is that as assets got more expensive versus wages, no one managed to save anything. They will never cover the cost of living in their later years. He accompanies the gloomy statement with an image showing the average and median 401k balances of different generations. Boomers have an average of $215,000 and a median of $61,200. Gen Xers have an average of $145,000 and a median of $44,000. In sharp contrast, millennials have an average balance of $44,900 and a median of $15,500, while Gen Z have an average of $7,100 and a median of $2,500. There is such a large disparity between these figures, larger than the age differences between each generation. For example, baby boomers born between 1946 to 1964 are now about 77 to 59 years old. Millennials born between 1981 to 1996 are about 42 to 27 years. This means, on average, older millennials have been saving for about 2 decades and probably have 2 more decades to work and save for retirement. They will need to save about 5 times as much as they are saving currently to match the boomers. But that's not even the biggest conundrum for the American working population. We also have to consider how fast asset prices are rising due to inflation. Powell explains that the sad reality is that even boomers aren't prepared enough for retirement, and that's why they are competing with their kids in the labor force for the first time in history. Boomers and their kids, the millennials, are the largest generation groups, and their involvement in the labor force at the same time is keeping wages down. The result of all these is debts, Powell adds. His next posts read, "So the answer has been to load up on debts after debts after debts, a crushing amount of debt. And the only way to service that debt is by printing more and more and more money so the collateral never fails. But that debases the currency and optically forces asset prices higher and higher and higher, while wages don't rise and people get poorer and poorer and poorer." Powell further explains that this unending agony of uncertainties about the future is causing a lot of anger and rage in Americans, splitting everyone into a bipolar two-party system marked by a lot of blame apportionment, name-calling, and deep-seated hatred. He uses the example of the COVID-19 pandemic and how much it divided the country. He adds that the country also faces an unprecedented opioid crisis. Americans are dying in huge numbers and living shorter lifespans, unlike any other country on Earth. Going further, Powell warns people to prepare for an election year, which he says will bring deeper divisions and more anger. The posts read, And we are about to enter the 2024 election where the country is angry, confused, and divided. And we are going to throw deep fakes and AI misinformation into the mix, and people are going to lose their minds. It's a horror story, the former Goldman Sachs executive notes gloomily. But there might be a silver lining for investors who take appropriate steps early enough. In his posts, Powell predicts that the Fed will be forced to print more money, which will lead to further debasement and despair, but investors who choose crypto and technology can avoid a large part of the rapidly unfolding crisis. Here is the rest of the posts. 2024 is a year where the Fed will print more money, Powell notes, and the government will hand out more stimulus to bribe the voters, which leads to yet more printing down the line, and the people will get poorer and poorer, and despair will keep rising and rising. But the only way out is to own the assets that rise in exactly this situation, crypto and technology. Everything else is a wealth trap. It will make you feel more in control and more able to deal with what is happening. Even if you can only afford a very small amount of these assets, it will make a difference. I see no other way. Choose wisely. Everyone is going to lose their minds next year. Try very, very hard to not lose yours. What are your thoughts on Raoul Pal's gloomy assessment of the economic situation in the United States? Do you agree that the Fed will be forced to turn on the printers next year? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.